So thank you everyone for joining us today as we discuss and introduce our newest service, Phone Validation International, which is a critical piece of your customer data strategy. So without further ado, I'll be here helping Rob Manser out throughout the webinar. My name is Ashley McCreary and I'm a marketing coordinator here at Service Objects. This will be about a 30-minute webinar. We will have a Q&A section at the end, but please feel free to put your questions in the chat box below, and we will get to it throughout the webinar. So this is where I hand it off to Senior Product Marketing Manager, Rob Manser.
Great, thanks, Ash. I'm excited. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited. Today, we're going to talk about our newest product, Phone Validation International, and how it fits into the customer data validation sort of umbrella of services that we offer. I did put together a short agenda. Like I said, we'll talk about customer data validation, sort of make sure everyone has a strong understanding of what that means to us and what it means to you and your business. We'll take a quick poll. We really want to understand what you're doing for phone validation, if you're doing anything for phone validation. And then we'll dive into the meat of the new product, phone validation. We'll talk about its features and benefits, and then we'll take a look at some real world use cases that we're seeing with our clients. And then, as Ashley mentioned, we'll dive into some questions and answers at the end. Hopefully we have the answers. One thing that I wanted to call out about this product that makes it a little bit different is this product is a direct result of some of what our customer needs. What we've heard from our customers about what they need and what isn't really out there and available. So this Phone Validation International is a direct result of sort of meeting the needs that the market hasn't met yet. So super excited to bring this to everybody and see what they can do with it. So with that said, let's just talk about customer data validation. As businesses expand their reach across the globe, they're facing increasing customer data sort of accuracy challenges. And so that includes, capturing reliable contact data, fighting fraud, making sure that you're meeting all the privacy and data protection, consumer protection compliance needs, and then quite honestly, just simply staying connected with your customers. And so the solution really is customer data validation, and that covers the broad gamut. It's, we're looking at the name, address, phone, email, and device of people. And then we're combining that, we're using what people provide, what your customers provide, we're bouncing that against authoritative global data sets that we have, and using some very sophisticated AI to then verify and correct key customer contact data points. And we also will append additional customer information there. So I thought it would be interesting to just maybe take a look at how that happens. So the first step, so really what it is, as I mentioned, is it will instantly verify and correct customer data. And where that can really come in handy, or where that really shows its value, is it improves marketing and operational efficiencies. It will help detect and deter fraudulent accounts and activities. Again, as I mentioned, it really is extremely valuable in detecting sort of compliance, flags that may or may not be risks for your business. And of course, as we mentioned, we're going to stay in touch with your customers. There's so much more that customer data validation can do. We have customers in the insurance industry that are looking at it for risk evaluation for their customers. We have in the e-commerce world, maybe they're using our services to help fight cart abandonment. So anyway, so those are just a few of them. And the first step of that is looking at the integrity check. And really what that is at the basic level is we're taking that the name, the address, the phone number, the email address, or the device, or the IP of the device, really. And we're using each one of those, and we're validating those to make sure that they're accurate. And if not, then we're going to correct them where we can, or we're going to flag them to you and say this is inaccurate and it needs correction that we can't provide. Maybe that means your customer service team might need to reach out to somebody, or it is obviously fraudulent. One of the reasons that we do this at the very beginning is because as it goes through this customer data validation process, we really want to start with the most accurate details that we can, so that we can then augment and extend as the next step, which allows us to take that verified data and then bounce it against other data sets and derive additional data points for them. So in the phone world that we're talking about today, some examples might be, we're going to tell you that the phone number is associated with a phone line type, like it's a mobile or landline. We're going to provide porting details. This is critical for compliance with some of the telephony regulations that are out there. We'll provide the geo coordinates of the carrier or the subscriber to the phone, depending on the service that you're using. In addition, if you're using a reverse phone lookup, you can get back the name and address from a phone number. So, so those additional data points allow us to then make cross connections and interconnections, and those interconnections allow us to look for inconsistencies or consistencies. So if you have a customer profile and they've given you their name and their address and their phone number, and then we use the phone service to come back and say, hey, this phone number looks like it's associated with a phone number in Germany, and they're saying they live in Portland, Oregon. There's a little bit of a disconnect there, and or more likely the case is it's going to be that the phone number and the address line up. And so those consistencies allow us to provide what we call quality signals, which is really just a way of us scoring the value of the customer, and that score comes out in a number of different ways. If you're using one of our more comprehensive services, we're going to score each of those line items: name, address, phone, email, and device. We're going to provide a confidence score for each one of those. In addition to that, we'll do a cumulative or a overall score that allows you then to see very quickly sort of how accurate and how confident you can be that you have accurate customer data. So the reason that the quality score is so important is that score can be then used to build custom business logic around it. So you can automatically weed out fraudulent or high-risk customer accounts, or weed out may not be the right word. Maybe you're going to flag them for customer service to review, or maybe you are going to completely delete them. In addition to that, if you turn it on its head, when you get like a 10 out of 10 on a quality score, you're going to want to accelerate that lead or that customer to your customer care team for attention, essentially. So with that said, I kind of would like to maybe ask you, what are you doing for customer validating customer phone numbers? Are you using a domestic service? Are you only worried about the United States or your country? Or are you looking at the international? So I'll let Ash put up a poll.
Yes, I just pushed the poll live, so you guys should see that on your screen. All right, let's publish these results. So it looks like we have a not yet, as well as yes, both domestic and international.
Perfect. I mean, the international is what we're here to talk about. So, so
We're
with
in the
that
right
said,
place.
yeah, we're in the right place. So with that said, let's dive into the product itself, Phone Validation International. We're super excited about this product. We have a number of phone services that we've done, but we have been really missing this for this particular need. We've been really missing the international component of it, and so this product has unparalleled accuracy and breadth of coverage. We have over 8.6 billion global phone numbers, and of that, 7.3 of them are mobile, which covers about 250 countries and territories. And it verifies and formats the phone numbers for international direct dialing. That allows you then to insert the number directly into a dialer. It determines the line type, the country code. It provides the porting details and some of the geocoding information that you might need to support compliance. So with that said, how does it work? In short, it's going to instantly validate against those global carriers. In the United States alone, there's over 4,000 carriers. So you can imagine globally that is a vast number of carriers. So that database has to be is updated constantly, and it has to, covers the gamut of carriers in the world. And what Phone Validation International does is it bounces the number against that data set, and it returns the country's format. It gives you a quality score, and it gives it the other details that I talked about. And I thought it'd be much easier to maybe show you a couple demos of these. So we'll just maybe jump over to our demo page, if it will load. There we go. So this is a simple way for us to display how the service works. Clearly, this is an API, so this wouldn't necessarily be the way you would see the data or how it would present itself in your implementation, but I thought this was a fast way to look at it. So one of our customers recently is really struggling with accounts in Central America and South America. So I thought we'd take a look at maybe Guatemala. So here's the phone number that they're receiving. This is their country code. It's not required, right? We could actually derive the country code from this, but in this case, it's been provided. So and so we'll hit submit, and you'll see it comes back with a score of 9. The scale is 0 to 10, 10 being a perfect phone number, and 0, of course, being a bad or non-existent number. Usually 0 usually means non-existent, 1 means a bad number. But as you can see from the results, we're going to break down the phone number to its country code and then its national dialing format. We're going to give you the format for international dialing. This is going to allow you to quickly insert this to any dialing platform that you might need, or if your CRM has like auto dial out of the automatic dial out of the CRM, these are the numbers you're going to want to insert so that the dialer works properly for international numbers. We are going to return the country. In this case, there wasn't enough information for us to tell you the city and state, but we'll come back to some other examples where we'll see that. As I mentioned, you can see that it's a landline. So as an obvious example, you don't want to try and send this person SMS messages as sort of a use case. And then down here, you'll see the time zone they're in. This is valuable if you're maybe setting up dialing trees and stuff like that. You want to make sure that you're not calling someone at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then lastly, you're going to come down here and see their current provider, which is Claro and Sercom. And this might be valuable for a number of things in the marketing world. And, maybe you're selling, I don't know, you're selling a phone case, and you could say something like, "Hey, Claro customers," something like that, just to maybe personalize the service a little bit. So that's an example of a simple example of maybe a Central America number that we could help our customers validate and have confidence that they're a customer. Let's maybe look at one in Athens. So again, they provided the country code, the country here, but what you'll see is this has a score of 8, and we'll talk about why in a second here. That still a valid phone number, I would think, and you still want to include this and continue to try and dial this number. But this is a little more extended. Again, we have the international phone number, but you can now see that the phone number comes out of Athens in the admin area of Attica, of course, in Greece. We're going to give you the long lat. Again, it's a landline. And you're going to see this is where we're going to start to see some more of the value of the service. Now we're seeing that this phone number was actually ported, and we're giving you the data was ported, as well as the flag, a note code that it's ported. I would comment for developers, these note codes actually come with numeric values as well, making it very simple to write business rules around. We're also giving a bit of a warning that there's some sequential numbers in the phone number. This is for finding things where people just put in like 555, 555, 555 as a phone number. So we're not saying this is a problem. We're just sort of highlighting that there's some sequential numbers in there. Again, you get the time zone. But when we come down into here, you'll start to see this is more related to the porting details. Currently, their carrier provider's OTE, but before it was ported on this date back here, it lived with the WIND or WIND carrier out of Greece. And so, again, useful information. One of the things we'll talk about here is if this phone number was ported multiple times, let's just say it went from carrier to carrier to carrier to carrier, that's going to show up down here, and there's going to be multiple levels down here. And that is valuable because it's generally that's a very clear indication, especially if given the window of porting dates. It's a clear indication that maybe there's some fraudulent and sort of nefarious activity going on around that phone number. So it's one of those things that you can use as an indicator of fraud or at least concern. And so maybe we'll look at one more, look at sort of maybe a bad phone number. So this is actually an interesting one. Someone has sort of messed up when they're typing in. Maybe they weren't paying attention, or it may even be intentional, but there's a real phone number in here. And this is one of the powers of phone validation international. First of all, we're giving you a score out of 10 on this because we are able to determine the phone number from this mess over here. So this one is in Las Vegas, Nevada. And of course, we're going to be able to tell you that it's been ported. We didn't have the country code, so we added it. If you can see up here, the 702 doesn't have the 1 in front of it, which is the country code. We were able to add that because we had confidence in that. And then we're again going down here and telling you that this has been ported from Central Tel to Envoy, and it was a landline as well. So just a pretty good example of how we can correct the phone number. And then lastly, I'll just show you maybe one that is pure garbage. Now, by the human to the human eye, this is clearly a garbage phone number. But if this is being submitted to a form, the form needs help. And so what we can tell you is that this one is not a good phone number. We're going to give you this error status that it has potentially, I'll just call them troublesome characters that that people can use to inject into database and stuff like that. So we're going to tell you right away to stop and not use that one. So that's maybe a few of the examples that you can see here. Hold on, I'll jump back to the presentation. With that said, I thought we'd talk a little bit about some of the features and benefits. Some of this might be a little repetitive because I've talked about it a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we understand the value of the service. So Phone Validation International uses multiple authoritative data sources. I feel like I beat that to death a little bit, but it's really important you understand that the vastness of the data that's available. Like I said, over 8 billion phone numbers that have to be maintained and kept up to date all the time. And those phone numbers, again, allow us to bounce your data against the service and then provide that quality score that sort of signals the validity of a phone number or the dialability of a phone number. And those scores can, once you have accurate data and you have a score associated with it, you can then start to use that in your business logic to to ensure you're calling valid phone numbers and improve your customer contact rates. So, and conversely, remove anything that is problematic or maybe of high risk, and just remove them from your CRM, from your marketing efforts, and from your sales and customer service teams. One of the other benefits is this what we call global phone intelligence, and that's really that bringing together that line type, the carrier, the porting information, the time zones, all the stuff that we looked at in the demo there. And again, those other data points can really help improve your marketing efforts, your customer service engagement, and especially around the location and porting details help with the compliance with privacy and telephony regulations. And then lastly, I just wanted to spend a little more time in that porting information. That information is key to the privacy regulations. In the GDPR, for example, in the EU, you need to know location to know if it applies, and then of course you need to know landline or mobile because different rules apply. In the United States, the TCPA specifically gives businesses a little bit of a cushion or window from a porting date to make a mistake. Essentially, hey, I didn't know this phone number had changed hands or changed from landline to mobile or mobile to a new carrier. Knowing those dates and then knowing that you have a certain window from that date to sort of make a mistake essentially is critical. And so this detailed porting data is important. And then secondarily, as I mentioned in the when we were looking at the demo, if you're starting to see a porting history where there's just the phone number has been ported over and over and over again, that can suggest sort of bad actors, if you will, and maybe not a customer that you want to potentially have in your database. So with that said, I thought we'd look at a couple of use cases, 3 or 4 use cases here. Again, going back to the accuracy and contact rates, we have a customer currently using this that is really looking to take the noise out of the CRM, where their dialer's not dialing a bunch of numbers that get that wah, 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 or or the fast busy signal, or just doesn't exist. So by verifying and scoring the customer's numbers, they quickly can identify incorrect, invalid, or out of compliance phone numbers and just move them out of their dialing system. And they're really just looking for that verified customer and a dialable phone number. And they have seen seen improved engagement rates, and they were really using it for promotional offers. But we have, it's certainly going to help with if you need to get an important notification, or if customer service needs to follow up with your customers. Any of those things this is going to improve the contact rate and the engagement rate with them, and that's just going to lead to happier customers, more money, and loyalty essentially from it. Another use case that we're seeing is that compliance use case, and we've talked about it quite a bit. But We have a US-based customer that is really just focused. They're an outbound call center, and they cannot, and the TCPA rules their life, and so they want to be able to quickly um, identify any high risk scenarios that would potentially put them in violation of the TCPA, and also be able to look for that porting date and calculate the date from that to when. And if they're not able to get consent to call, they have to turn that number off. They can't continue to keep it in their phone system. In the GDPR, it's sort of a similar thing where we need to know where they're located, and by country, essentially at this point, for the GDPR specifically, and then what type of line, what kind of phone line they're using, and those sort of certain rules apply depending on that. So it's critical for them to get these data points to keep them in compliance. And as I mentioned before, because these are all numeric values, you can quickly build business rules around them to help you identify compliance risks and ensure that you're not going to run into any sort of legal issues with compliance. The last use case that I'll talk about is fraud. Kind of touched on this a little bit throughout. It can certainly help detect and prevent fraudulent accounts and activities. And it's really looking for suspicious or fake phone numbers. It's hard to come up with a legitimate phone number that is attached to an account that hasn't been ported 1,000 times. It's actually hard to make that stuff up. And so unless you have the full customer details. So for instance, if a new customer provides an invalid phone number, or it's associated, one of the things I didn't mention in the phone line types is we can detect the free VoIP services. So if they have used an invalid number, or maybe they're using a free VoIP number, they're going to receive a low quality score, and that should be in these particular cases. Those should be red flags for potential fraud. And again, you can use the note codes and the scoring to automatically flag and delete those, so your customer team isn't even dealing with them, and you're proactively removing them so that they don't have to even touch them or spend additional resources trying to figure out why you can't get a hold of someone, or more importantly, prevent them if they have nefarious sort, or if they're trying to act as bad actors and get something from you. Really stop them at the gate from doing that. And so you can stop them before they can do damage. So those are just some of the use cases that we're seeing. This is a relatively new product. I know that we have one of our customers is really struggling to sign on customers in South America and Central America, or legitimate customers. And so they're excited to deploy this. They're in the process of doing that. So I'm excited to see what the results are there. But with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have. Ash?
Yes, yeah, we do have a little chat box there at the bottom of your screen, so please feel free to put some questions in. Um, I know you mentioned this, Rob, earlier in the presentation about the score and the scale. So it is 1 to 10, or is it 0 to 10?
0 to 10. Zero basically means it's just the number doesn't. It doesn't exist. It's not a good number. It doesn't mean that it's not a dialable number. It just means that the format of the number really doesn't work for phone number. So it says it's like not a number, not a phone number is really what it's saying. Whereas a 1 through 10 is really talking about the quality of the number that you have, or the certainty that the number is dialable. Where
Mhm.
zero is absolutely not dialable. One is likely not dialable as well. I'll be careful about that. But as you start to move up the scale there, the number might be dialable, but it may have problems. It may have like some porting issues, or it may be missing, not missing because you can't dial a number if it's missing something, but it might be in a country that has known bad actors or something like that. So depending
Okay.
on where you land on that score, I would say like 7 through 10 is highly dialable, likely who they say they are, but maybe we found some other issues with it. Maybe it's been ported a number of times or something like that. So we give it a little bit lower score. Tens are absolutely 100% dialable, perfect, likely match the customer. So that's the scale.
Awesome. I think that's important to note. Another question. Does Phone Validation International provide customer details?
It does not, on purpose. There's a number of sort of privacy concerns that we would have there. We do have another service that, you're really starting to ask more about, like a reverse phone number lookup service, and we do have a product called GeoPhone Plus that does that for the US and Canada only. But for international phone numbers, there's a number of privacy concerns we have about returning the customer details. So we do not. This service is really built for detecting fraud, the help with compliance and stuff like that. It's not meant to backfill your customer database based on a phone number. We're assuming you have captured that information and can compare that, or it's not necessary for whatever reason you're using the phone number for.
Awesome. Um, and you briefly touched on this before, but how are businesses using Phone Validation International?
Yeah, I kind of went through it. It's, I think in order of what we're seeing, one is just validating the accuracy of the phone number so that they can be used with with dialers or whatever. But basically just saying, give me confidence that my team can dial this phone number. And if it can't, then we're moving it out, or we're flagging it for further follow-up to be corrected. And so that's the largely the first benefit that our customers sort of enjoy from Phone Validation International. The next one I would say is tied a little bit. It's that compliance conversation. Am I compliant with the different telephony regulations across the world? And then again, sort of hand in hand with that is that fighting fraud, looking at the phone number and maybe how the phone number is generated, and maybe some of the particulars of it, to see if there's any indications that these are bad actors that are sort of trying to provide a phone number. Those are the big three. Beyond that, there's lots of other sort of use cases that we hear about, that I'm excited to see in action. I think the biggest one for me beyond that is when phone numbers are added into a form or something more. When you get a phone number and you don't know the line type, and as a marketing person, that limits the size of your pool. So said a different way, if I am trying to do SMS marketing and 90% of my phone numbers are landline, then I'm going to really have poor results against that data set if I don't flag them as landline. Conversely, if I removed all of those from that marketing campaign and only used that 10% that has SMS, my metrics are going to look much better. My engagement's going to be better. My expectations are probably going to be much higher. So there's a number of use cases for this. It's just it's a little bit about how creative you want to be on your end, or what your business needs are, and what this can provide. And one thing I'd add there is that Phone Validation International isn't the solution based on what you're trying to solve. We have a number of their phone products and customer data validation products that probably can meet that need. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if we don't, we are all ears to our customers about what their needs are, and what we can help build, or maybe change, or I want to be careful about change, but basically create some customization for you around maybe some of our other products if this doesn't meet your needs.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Rob, again for this awesome presentation. Um, Here is the slide with all the information. We will be sending out an email with the slide deck as well as the webinar recording, so you all will have that in the near future. But please feel free to contact us regarding any questions that might pop into your mind, and we will get back to you uh, in a timely manner. So without that, thank you again, Rob, and thank you for everybody for joining us today as we discuss Phone Validation International.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.